Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you haven't seen already, I just recently went to the Formula 1 British Grand Prix. I posted a whole vlog about it, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. I'll link it down below. But it's really fun. I take you around London, go merch shopping, and obviously to Silverstone to watch the race. So since this was a last minute trip, I didn't actually have that much time to research or prepare. But now that I've been, I learned a lot. And so I want to share all the tips and tricks I learned about going to your first race weekend, about traveling for a Grand Prix. And yeah, I hope this video helps you out planning your next Grand Prix trip. So let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk about is merch. So you might have heard this before, but merch is so much more expensive at the circuit than it is online. I thought we might be able to get better prices by going to some of the fan zones or activations in the city, like in London, that weren't actually at the circuit, but I saw similarly inflated prices at those activations. So I think if you want to get the best price, you should just buy ahead of time online. So for example, at the Williams fan zone that we went to in London, we saw this Alex Albon t-shirt, and at the fan zone, it was listed for 45 pounds, around $60 US. But online, it was just 36 pounds or around $48. So it's not a huge price jump, but it's obviously more than what you're gonna be paying online. And if you're gonna be buying multiple items, it's gonna really add up. If you're on a budget or if you want to make sure you're getting a good deal, the best deal is going to be online ahead of time. So at Silverstone, for example, this Mercedes hat was listed at 55 pounds and only 38 online. So you're going to be basically expecting somewhere in the range of 20 to 40% more expensive if you buy at the circuit. If you do want to buy your merch at the track, then I highly recommend you go early. If you have a multi-day ticket, go your first day, during the day. We saw lines for a lot of the merch stands after like the big events. So, Saturday afternoon after qualifying or Sunday afternoon after the race, the lines were like really long. But also, by Sunday afternoon, all the, the popular sizes were basically out of stock. Definitely go early because they might run out by the end of the weekend and then you won't be able to get what you want. Okay, let's talk transportation. So for Silverstone in particular, they have a really sophisticated and thorough shuttle system. So we use the Milton Keynes shuttle route, but they also serve other train stations like Oxford, Banbury, Coventry, and Northampton. And then they also have a few local town shuttles. So along the Milton Keynes route, it was actually the Towcester shuttle route as well. And then they also have Brackley and Buckingham, as well as a few park and ride locations and shuttles between the parking lots that they have dedicated for Silverstone. At Silverstone, prices start at 5 pounds per person per day. When it gets closer to the actual race day, they increase it to 10 pounds per person per day. And then if you buy day of, it's gonna be 20 pounds per person per day. So I definitely recommend booking your shuttle pass early. You might save some money by booking early, and you'll make sure that you know how you're getting to the track every day. Wait times wise, I was a little bit concerned about this because I had read that the shuttle wait times could be really, really bad. And I had also heard that Milton Keynes is the most popular shuttle route, but I was actually pleasantly surprised by the wait time. So on Saturday, we got to the Milton Keynes station around 8-ish. We basically didn't wait at all. It was like maybe 10 minutes to get on a shuttle. On Sunday, we got there a bit later, around 9:30, and we waited a bit longer, I think 20 minutes. The majority of the wait is actually on the way back. So on Saturday, we left about an hour after qualifying, and the wait was about 30 minutes. So that sounds long, but they actually keep the line moving nonstop. So it didn't really feel like 30 minutes at all. It went by super fast because you're just walking back and forth for 30 minutes until you can get onto a shuttle. On Sunday, it was a bit longer. It was an hour wait, but it's kind of the same story. It's like you could feel it moving. You could see the buses being loaded constantly. So it wasn't a painful wait, but I would say don't be that worried about the shuttle wait time. Milton Keynes is definitely the most popular shuttle route. The worst case scenario basically is an hour wait time for the shuttle. So you're not gonna be waiting any longer than that. The event is super well organized and it's really easy to find your shuttle. And yeah, everyone was really nice in line, and we were all just ready to get back home. Speaking of getting to and from the circuit, where should you stay when you're going to the Silverstone Grand Prix? So this is a big question for me because obviously Silverstone is quite far from London. We were originally considering staying in Milton Keynes because That's like the biggest nearby town with a lot of lodging options and restaurant options. But when we realized it was going to be a pretty short trip, we wanted to maximize our time and decided to stay in London so that we could take advantage of like the city nightlife and all the restaurants and food options there. And it ended up being totally worth it. So the train ride from London to Milton Keynes can be as short as 25 minutes. The longest one was 40 minutes. So when you think about it, in the whole travel time getting to and from the circuit, the majority of the time is actually spent waiting for a shuttle and on the shuttle, because it's still at least a 40-minute shuttle ride from Milton Keynes to Silverstone. And every day when we got home, it was still light out. So I think especially if you aren't that interested in staying for the like musical performances that they have at the circuit, so you won't be staying that long past the last track action of the day, then I think London is a really good option, and it's actually really easy. Definitely consider London. I think that you shouldn't eliminate it just because it's far. It's really easy to take the train from Euston Station up to Milton Keynes. Okay, let's talk about the biggest surprise of the weekend. Inner track access. So we booked really last minute and there weren't that many tickets left. So we ended up picking the Loop. The Loop was actually a new grandstand this year, 2025, and it's located in the inner track. So this ended up being a highlight of the trip because I had heard in previous years that if you had inner track access, there was an area where the drivers parked, like near the entrance to the paddock, that people often waited to, get selfies and get autographs. But actually this year was the first year they kind of formalized that concept into the fan forecourt. In the fan forecourt, there were labeled spots for every single driver. And so when you arrived, you could see which drivers had already gotten to the circuit and if their cars were parked there and which drivers were still arriving. And this was actually amazing. So it was located right at the paddock entrance. And so you could see, that gate where they scan their badges. And then you could see a lot of the team hospitality buildings set up. And it kind of felt like you were in the paddock without, actually being there, and also without paying paddock prices. When we arrived on Saturday around 9 o'clock, there were actually still quite a few drivers that hadn't arrived, so we ended up seeing like 8 drivers and 2 reserve drivers and getting autographs. I got an autograph from Esteban Ocon and Mick Schumacher, which was awesome. And so even if you're not like that interested in seeing drivers or getting autographs, it was actually just super fun atmosphere to hang around, watch people arrive, see who you could spot, and also get like very close to the drivers' cars. We saw Lando Norris's amazing McLaren and George Russell's amazing Mercedes, as well as Lewis Hamilton's motorcycle. That was actually like way more fun than I expected. Plus is also that area, since inner track is like not open to everybody, you need a separate ticket. Either you need your grandstand ticket to be in there or you need a separate inner track access ticket. Because it was so limited, there was like no line for the bathroom. There were covered areas. It was really easy to find a seat in the covered areas, which was very important when it rained. So I think it's totally worth it if you are considering upgrading your ticket. For example, if you have a GA ticket, inner track access actually seems super worth it, because I had heard the main issue with GA is that you have to show up really early in order to stake out your spot to have a good view for the race or for whatever track action was there that day. But at the inner track, all the GA areas were pretty chill the whole day. Like, nobody looked like they had a bad view. There was always somewhere to sit. So if you are considering GA just because you maybe want that flexibility of sitting wherever you want, or you want to save a little bit of money, I'd recommend considering adding inner track, because I think it actually adds a lot of value and makes just the day more comfortable. Speaking of GA, let's talk about all of the ticket types. At any track, there are a ton of grandstands all around the track. It can be hard to pick because, especially if you haven't been at the track before, you don't really know what view you're gonna get. But I'd look into, for that circuit, where the overtaking spots are. Like, the viewing experience for the race will really vary depending on if you're on a fast straight or at a corner. So we were sitting at the Loop grandstand, and so you actually have a view of both Village and the Loop, which is turn 3 and turn 4. And I think we saw more than half of the overtakes of the whole race happening right in front of us. And that made it super exciting. Like, when we first got there, we're watching FP3, I was a little bit disappointed that we weren't on like one of the super fast straights so that you could see the F1 cars zooming by. But it ended up being totally worth it because we saw a ton of the overtakes, and those are actually like way more exciting. So I think decide which which of the two options you're more interested in and pick your grandstand based on that. In terms of features of grandstands to optimize for, I think definitely having a big screen view is really important. Otherwise, during the race, you're gonna have no idea what's going on. Also for qualifying, you'll be able to see the chart, the timing chart, so that's also super useful. In terms of covered or not covered, I think probably an obvious answer, but if you are at a circuit where rain is frequent, definitely go for the covered grandstand. At Silverstone, even though the rain was pretty short, we got very soaked in those 10 minutes of rain and dried off pretty quick because the sun came out right after, but yeah, it would be better to not get soaked. I think in terms of comfort in the seat, like seat backs and padded seats seemed actually less important than I thought. Unless you have a mobility concern and you want it to be more comfortable, I would say you don't really have to optimize for that because you actually don't sit in your seat for that long every day. Like practice sessions and qualifying are only an hour long. All the other times you're probably out getting food, getting drinks, doing some stuff in the fan zone. And so you don't actually spend that much time sitting in your seat. So I think I wouldn't worry too much about it if you get bleacher seats or something because you're not gonna be sitting there for that long. The last thing I'll say about Silverstone ticket types is Intertrack is one of the ticket upgrades you can get, and I already said that one's definitely worth it. The other upgrade option I saw was Fast Track. I would say maybe skip that one. I think it's basically an expedited security line so that you can get into the circuit faster, but every day we arrived around 8:30, 9, basically before 10 a.m. We didn't wait longer than 10 minutes in the security line. So I think if you're gonna be able to get there that early, I would say skip Fast Track and save your money for merch. Okay, some more tips about watching on-track action. Even if you have a reserved grandstand seat, do not spend the whole weekend in that grandstand seat. We kind of made this mistake. Basically, we were there for FP3 qualifying in the race and we were sitting in our seats in the loop grandstand for all 3 of those sessions. But I really wish that for FP3 we had just gone around and viewed the circuit from different GA areas because you can actually get quite close to the cars. You're basically like eye level with the cars and seeing them go by at that speed is really crazy and really awesome. And you can also get like way cooler photos from those angles. So I highly recommend, even if you have a reserved grandstand seat, to spend at least one session going around and watching the cars from different angles around the track. What is cool about a lot of the Silverstone tickets is they are roving for Friday and Saturday. So you can actually go and sit in any of the grandstands that are dedicated to roving on Friday and Saturday for any of the sessions. It's just first come, first served. And then most of the grandstands are reserved seating on Sunday, so you'll have a dedicated seat for the race. But it's a great opportunity on Friday and Saturday to go check out other views and other vantage points and see where the best track action is. Okay, what else is there to do at the track besides the on-track action? And the answer is there's plenty to do. So the fan zone is probably the most obvious thing. Based on my research, all the fan zones at all the races across the calendar have basically the same experiences, which include the wind tunnel experience, which simulates, standing in a wind tunnel, just blows a ton of air at your face. That was funny to watch. A lot of racing sims, the pit stop challenge, which is always entertaining. And this year, I don't know if they have this every year, but they had like a free Lego setup where basically you could build your own little F1 Lego car for free. And these all kind of had really long lines, so we didn't end up doing any of them when we were at Silverstone. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely recommend going a bit earlier in the day and doing a lot of those free activities because you can end up waiting a long time just because they're free, but they look really fun. There are also music acts. I think basically every Grand Prix has music entertainment in the evening for each day. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely check that out and check the lineup ahead of time. They also have throughout the day fan stages with different driver appearances, team member appearances, and we even saw like Matt and Tommy of P1 with Matt and Tommy, that YouTube channel, doing a meet and greet. So yeah, there are a ton of interesting things to do at the circuit that aren't just watching on-track action. But of course, there's also a ton of like support races and demonstrations on track. So you'll definitely never be bored. Okay, let's talk about what to bring to the track for an F1 race. You'll want to start with a bag. I would say bring a backpack in case you get merch. You don't want to be carrying around a paper bag that disintegrates in the rain. We saw a lot of that happening at Silverstone. One tip is to just check the size limits for the track that you're going to. So this year, for example, Silverstone published a 22-liter backpack size limit. I did see people with bags that were bigger than that, but just to be safe, you should make sure to check the size limit. Next is a battery pack for your phone. If you're gonna be taking photos and videos all day, fighting people for Wi-Fi, then it's gonna drain your battery, so definitely bring a battery pack. Next is Sharpies for autographs. So honestly, I felt a bit silly bringing a Sharpie because I was like, I'm not gonna meet any drivers. But I knew that if I did and I didn't have one, then I'd be super disappointed. And then we ended up meeting and getting autographs from 2 drivers. So I would just bring a Sharpie because you never know who you might meet. Next is just, water bottle and snacks. At Silverstone, every single grandstand had a water bottle refill station attached to it, basically. So this can definitely save you money and save you time, not having to go and buy water every time you get thirsty. The last thing I would say is bring earplugs or noise-canceling earbuds. You just want to make sure you're protecting your hearing. The cars are super loud, and you just want to make sure you have ear protection. Last thing to talk about for your race day experience are race radios. So at Silverstone, they were selling Formula One race radios, but they also had Amex booths where Amex card holders could pick up a free race radio that came with earbuds. So I'm not an Amex card holder, but on Sunday they had specific times where while supplies lasted, anybody could pick up a free Amex race radio. And so for Sunday, we ended up getting one. And that was super useful because the earbuds were good for ear protection, but also helped you to hear the commentary while the cars were going by. Because while the cars are going by, it's so loud that you can't actually hear the loudspeaker. So it was super useful to have the race radio so that you could follow along with what was going on, especially when the action is not right in front of you. Obviously, another option is to just bring your own radio. At the end of the day, it's just a radio. You just have to find out what frequency to tune it to. If you're not an Amex card holder and you don't really want to spend money, just pick up a radio with a headphone jack and you'll be able to enjoy the on-track commentary. Okay, so that's it. That's all of the tips I have when preparing for your Grand Prix trip, for traveling to a different country for your Grand Prix trip. Hopefully that was useful. Let me know in the comments below if you have any more questions or if you have your own tried and true tips to share. Even if you don't listen to any of these tips, you're still gonna have an amazing time. There's so much to do at the track, so much track action to see. It'll be amazing no matter what. Hope you like this video. If you haven't seen my Silverstone vlog, go check it out. It's in the description below. Otherwise, see you next time.